Hello, this is the Community Preservation Committee, and it is April 27th. Before I start the meeting, I just want to make note that the meeting is being recorded. It's all on Zoom. Making it live. All attendees are muted upon entry, and the host will unmute guests during the presentation, hearing the citizens' comment agenda items. Questions during the meeting can be submitted in the chat area to be addressed by the chair, and attendees not adhering to guidelines could be put on hold or removed by the host. Okay, that being said, call the meeting to order at, I think it's 6:35. Yep, 6:35. Okay, first thing, excuse me, on the agenda, and I'm going to ask that we take some things out of order. Jennifer, I still say Jennifer Burke. I will get your name right one of these days, Jennifer, that you're not Burke. She's here for limited time. So once we just get through the comments, chair's announcements, I'm going to ask if we take things out of order. For someone to motion, we take out of order. So anything we need to ask Jennifer while she's here, and we can take advantage. It doesn't sound good. Take advantage of her time.
I've had worse people take advantage of me, Gina.
Okay.
TMI.
Yeah. Cheers announcements. First, I'd like to welcome our newest mentor, Steve Geller from the Planning Board. Welcome, Steve. Additional comments. Those of us on the CPC have seen Kathy Boldry at our meetings talking about Jennings Hill. I would just like to express on my behalf and on behalf of the Community Preservation Committee, our condolences on the passing of her daughter.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, our sincere condolences. I can't imagine what you're going through.
Thank you.
Okay, that being said, can we jump on to a motion to take out of order funded project updates, Memorial Building, McAllen School, Styles and Hart improvement application, and the anticipated projects, just for Jennifer's updates. So if we can have a motion just to take those items out of order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call, Josh.
Gina,
Yes.
Carlton,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, great. The first thing is, let me go back to the agenda here. My printer decided not to print these days, so Calvin nicely printed me out an agenda. Okay, Jennifer, the first thing, Memorial Building, just a update.
So the only real update I can give you is that work is progressing as expected. I believe you were sent some pictures of the work that as it's progressing. We and the town manager understands that we owe you a maintenance plan for the project, and that he is working on that. He is waiting for some information on the HVAC systems before he puts that together finally, because he doesn't want to give you a half plan. He wants to give you the whole maintenance plan. So he is working on that, and he does understand that he owes you that. So that is going to be coming soon. But maintenance, the work is progressing, and we're happy with the way it's going.
Okay, great, thank you. And questions on for Jennifer?
Question?
Is that me with the feedback, or does somebody? Is it somebody else?
It could be me, but
Okay, we lost you, Calvin.
I'm sorry.
We can. Did you have questions for Jennifer?
Yeah, I did. Jennifer, thank you for the update on the maintenance plan. Actually, it would be nice to see a draft just because we've been hearing this for over a year and a half. The other thing is, the pictures don't represent, they're great. I think they're fantastic. It's really good to see, but the pictures don't represent the money that the CPC recommended and the town council approved. We only funded the exterior accessibility information. But I do have a number of pictures I've taken over time of that work, and I will figure a way to get it so you can, I saw it was posted on the CPC webpage. I can get those pictures to you also at some point soon. But my quick point is we're still missing the maintenance plan. And also my point was funding in terms of which elements we funded. And the second one, I can't read my own writing, so I'll let it go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Jennifer, next is McElwain School.
I don't really have an update on that. I was under the impression that you guys had a tour of the building next week and that
Yep.
you guys would get an update then. So I don't have an update for you.
Okay,
From what I
that's great.
understand, the work is where it's going smooth and there's no issues. I haven't heard of any issues, so I don't know of any problems out there.
Okay, it looks great going by. And you and Michael are more than welcome to join up on our tour, May 4th.
Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you. I'll let Michael know. I'll check my schedule. I may be available that day.
Okay,
And we-
now just shoot your reminder too, there is a form you have to sign, just like our insurance liability waiver.
Okay.
I think we sign that form when we go into the shop there. I don't think we have to sign it in advance how I read it, but.
Okay, good.
Hopefully that's how they plan, because I think they have to have one page with all the signatures.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Carlton, for that.
That's on May
Next
4th.
is-
It's at May 4th at 1 o'clock, I think.
1, yep, 1,
Okay,
And you're meeting at the site?
correct.
Okay.
Correct. Okay, let's see what's next. Styles and Heart Improvement Project. We're going to talk about that more when we get to it. We did get the application from the town manager this week.
Yep. So
We
I had mentioned to Carlton, I think before you joined, Gina, that, we understand that we gave you the application after your deadline for submittals. We did not anticipate that you would have any conversations about that this evening. Michael is prepared to attend your next meeting on May 25th to answer any questions and go over the application with you at that time. I think when Josh initially sent out the application, he just sent you the 1 or 2 page or 3 page, whatever it is, application. But there was a bunch of attachments that Michael had intended to go with it that Josh, I think, sent out later today. So I think without seeing that whole packet, it's hard to get the whole concept of the project. So it might make some sense for everybody to look at the whole packet and then wait for Michael to come in on the 25th.
Okay, good. Thank you. Because we did have a couple of questions just for things that were missing, and we figured it just didn't get attached.
Well,
So
and
think that that's good.
I did suggest to Carlton that after you do that, if there's still things that are missing, if you want to just let us know before the meeting, we'll be happy to get over whatever you need.
yeah, I think the committee, any kind of review elements, send them to Josh, so he can send them down to Michael and Jennifer to actually address. I have a list of, right now, it was a list of 12 things. But I can call that down if I see what's in the attachments.
Okay.
Okay, good. And Josh, I just asked before you send it off to Michael that you just pass the whole list by me.
Will do.
Okay, let's see, what else do we have here? Summer Street property, the old mobile station. We
Yes,
had approved. Okay,
Yep. No, sorry, I didn't mean to jump on you.
no, that's okay.
Michael's working on that application now and anticipates getting that into you and in time for your next meeting so that he'll be able to discuss that with you at the same time he discusses Styles and Heart. So that's in process now, and we hope to get that to you as soon as possible.
Great, sounds good. And just wondering, Hanson's Farm, if I know they I believe it was you and Michael met with the Hansons, the end of March, and everything was on schedule then, that they were thrilled that you're doing the application, not them. Just checking that everything's still on schedule.
Yeah, as far as I know, we did meet with them the end of March. We did speak with them, went over the whole schedule. They were pleased with the schedule. They thought that that looked like a great schedule. They were still working on getting their survey completed, and we can't really do much of the CR and the farm plan without the final survey. So I told them to send that to me as soon as it was finished, and I would jump on that as soon as possible. They were fine with that. So I'm just waiting on that piece of it. I know Michael did reach out to an appraiser to get a cost estimate. I'm not sure if he received that estimate back yet. So he is working on that piece of it. So we are moving forward on different pieces of it. It is in progress and moving, at the pace that we anticipated.
Okay, great. That's good to hear.
Excuse me again.
Yep.
Quick question on that. We had voted to expend up to $15,000 on the appraisal,
Mhm.
but the schedule calls for that appraisal to be done in June and July timeframe.
Yes.
And that appraisal, if it's not spent in this fiscal year, that carries over, and we'd have to revote, as I understand it, we'd have to revote for the appraisal in July or August. So that vote, that money, if it's not spent, reverts back to us according to the town finance department.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm not sure, maybe Jennifer can answer this. When I talked to Laurie, she said it doesn't carry over, the encumbrance drops. And it was my understanding that I didn't ask about revoting, but it was my understanding that it would just get re-encumbered in the new fiscal year. Do you know that, Jennifer? Do we have to?
So
And
if you voted it out of your administrative budget, correct?
correct.
So yeah, so the administrative budget for this year will revert back to your, general budget after July, as of July 1st, but you'll get a new administrative budget on July 1st.
Right.
I don't believe you need a new vote, but if you're more comfortable with a new vote, you're certainly welcome to take one. I don't think it matters either way, but if that makes you feel better and more comfortable, then we're happy to have you take a new vote.
Okay, good. Thank you. That's what-
Just to clarify, regardless, if it reverts, regardless, we have to send a letter or something to you guys to say we want to pay for this anyway, right? Otherwise, you don't know.
correct.
You haven't already done that?
We've sent the letter for FY22 money, but not FY23.
I
Okay.
don't know, Carlton, I don't know if we specified in that. I'll have to go back to what we sent to Michael. I think we just said that we approved
We
expending
approved
the
the money
funds.
for this year. We didn't understand that it wouldn't carry over. At least I
Okay,
did.
Did you clarify fiscal years though in your vote, or did you just say from your administrative budget?
I think we
That's a
just
good
said
question.
administrative budget. I'd have to go back and check, but I think we just said from the admin budget.
If you just said from your admin budget, I think you're covered. If you clarified from the FY22 admin budget, then Carlton's correct and you would need probably a new vote at that point and a new letter. If you just said your admin budget, you believe you're covered.
Okay, great. I'll look back at what I actually sent to Michael.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's very
good.
helpful.
Okay. Let's see, we did possible projects, purchase of the Broad Street property, 2 pieces of property there. Now the purchase of that, was that included in the application for the Stiles and Hart improvement, or is that a whole separate project?
I believe you already had an eligibility form request sent to you for that, correct? Did you
Correct.
vote on the eligibility? I don't know that we ever got that back, that you deemed that eligible.
We did
Yeah, we
the
did.
eligibility for the overall project.
Okay.
I'm not sure if we did an eligibility for specific property purchases. I can't recall.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll have to look back to make sure.
So no, so the application was just sent to you today does not include the purchase of those two lots. So that would be a separate application. We, again, are waiting on an appraisal of those properties before we can go forward, I believe, on those properties.
Did you guys request funds from the CPC admin fund to do that?
No, I believe Michael had funds or found funds somewhere else for that.
Okay.
Right, there was something that he said he had funds and he wouldn't need from us, so that might have been it.
I believe that's correct, yeah.
Okay, I think that's it. Let me just look back. We did Memorial Building, McKellen, Stiles and Hart. Yeah, we put that on the agenda. We just moved it up for applications received, but we're basically going to say deal with it, but just to keep track of what we received. Okay, we did the mobile station, Hanson's, Broad Street property. I think that's it. Anything
I
else?
have one. I have one. It's item under annual public hearing. Because of things have gotten so with COVID and everything else, we haven't even started or hardly started to talk about our annual hearing. Jennifer, do you have any advice in terms of how long we can wait to have that and still meet the letter of the law?
When was do you remember when your last one was?
It was
The
about
last
this time a
February.
year ago.
I would
What
say
was-
you can probably get through the rest of this calendar year. As long as you have it sometime this calendar year, you're probably covered. So
Calendar year.
yeah, I would be fine with, I think you'd be fine as long as you did this calendar year.
And the other thing is we were thinking that at least I was thinking that the master plan, when it comes out, may have some influence on what we do there.
That's
So-
true.
So if we delayed that until midsummer, early fall, we should be okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think you'll be fine with that. I don't think there'll be an issue with that.
That would help because we've got quite a heavy load over the next several months here.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. And if you need help with setting that up and working with you on the annual public hearing and updating your plan, let me know. I've had experience with that and I'm more than happy to help.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
okay, good. Thank you.
Yep, much appreciated. I think that's it. And we got you out in like plenty of time for your
20
next.
minutes.
Yeah, that was good. Anything else from other committee CPC people for Jennifer while we have her? Guess not.
Jennifer,
Okay.
you're welcome to stay as long as you can.
Yeah.
I can probably stay for another 10 minutes or so.
You may want to listen in a little bit on the library application, but
Okay.
if you can.
Okay. If you want to take the library application out of order count, you want to just motion?
Yeah, I'll move that we take the library application item, old business applications received library. We require potentially a vote tonight, so I take that out of order. Motion.
Mm-hmm. Second,
Second.
all in favor? I'm Josh, roll call.
Gina,
Sorry, I'm taking your job away. Yes.
that's all right. Carlton,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Steve. Thank you. The motion was approved.
Great. Okay. Cal, you probably more versed in this. Do you want to talk about
Well,
it?
my first question is to the committee, and have you all studied the application so we can have a fruitful discussion about what it is?
Well,
If
I
you
wouldn't
haven't
use the
read
word,
it, let me know. Let us know.
I wouldn't use the word studied. I don't study things like that. I read them. And I
Me
was
too.
very impressed with them, with the proposal. And I came away thinking that the digital preservation of documents is as important a part of the history of the town as the architectural preservation of buildings and landscapes and so forth. So I'm totally behind this project. I detected in the last meeting that there were some questions that might arise at higher levels if this type of project were actually eligible for CPC funds. Has anybody investigated that? I mean, just to make sure that we're on the right footing, that we will not get our hands slapped by any state agencies. I can't imagine that we would, but that seemed to be the prevailing question that was intimated in the last meeting. I don't know if it was said directly, but it was.
Well,
on
I can
people's
speak.
minds.
I can speak to a couple of your questions if you don't mind, Gina.
Yep.
We have received, and there are some DOR flyers on this, and we have received information from the coalition that if digitization of a document is a minor component of the restoration of that document, it can be included in the process because they have to take an old book, break it down, do the preservation. At that point, you can digitize each page. And so that becomes a minor part of the cost, and that's fundable by CPC. If it's digitization for digitization's sake, I think it's not necessarily a CPA fundable activity. And I think Allison spoke to us a little bit about the fact that they have now, they can add it back in if they want, but they have removed the digitization part because they were going after other money, particularly for a couple of the very, very, very old and fragile books that we have in the historic room. Allison, did I correctly represent that?
Yes, you are absolutely correct. We just out of an abundance of caution, we took out the CPC funded digitization part of it, and we're looking at other sources of funding for that. Because we didn't want that to be a stumbling block that stopped the project from being approved.
So the other element that that we have some information on, and I think Allison sent me or us that the display cases are a little bit more questionable as a preservation tool. Much of the money is requesting, I'll use the common word of display cases, but they are climate controlled, they're moisture controlled, they're temperature monitored. Those kinds of things are the major part of the cost that the library is asking for. The question we have in my mind, and I think, is that I'm assuming that documents that would be in there would be under lock and key, under monitoring of some kind, and also that the displays would rotate in and out. So it's not a permanent storage location. Is that correct, Allison?
Yes, again, 100% correct. So all of the cases that we would buy come with built-in security features. And these are very high quality cases. You don't find cases that are going to do better for preservation or for security than these. And the library is in the process of updating the security cameras. I'm not 100% sure on the placement of those, but I know that there will be cameras in certain spots in the basement. And then the exhibits themselves will rotate because not only does it give people the opportunity to see more of their history on display, but it's also better for the items themselves to be in a space with a little bit more air circulation after a year or so.
Is the central purpose of the display cases preservation or display?
I would say that we're not able to display the items that we would like to display without preservation. So I would never consider purchasing cases without the preservation features for items of this historical value.
Okay,
So-
Allison, question for you. Will it basically in the showcase be historic documents to show, or is there a possibility there'll be other non-historic things in there?
This area is going to be for historic items. So the backbone of all the exhibits is going to be the public library's collection. And then we hope to bring in artifacts from other repositories in the Bridgewater area, like the university and Old Bridgewater Historical Society, so that we can pull the best items to really round out a particular exhibit.
Okay, thanks.
So can you speak a little bit more to besides the cases, what are the preservation, restoration items in your proposal?
The conservation work that we're hoping to get done at NEDCC is for a few of the, two is I think the wrong number, but a few of the earliest record books that we have in our collection. Beginning in 1656, we've taken these books to the American Antiquarian Society, and they have confirmed that they believe they're original.
Okay, so there's 2 books, no firearms or any of that nature right now in this particular proposal.
Correct. Yeah, it's right now we're only having books cleaned.
And is there any mold treatment type stuff included in this?
Yes, the 4th record book in its series, there are photographs of that in the proposal, has inactive mold on the back cover. And so right now, because it's not active, it's not going to spread, but in the wrong conditions, that very easily reactivates, spreads to other books, and just eats through those historical documents.
Okay, I just have a question, and maybe Carlton or Jennifer, you can answer this. Jennifer, are you familiar with the request that?
No, I haven't seen the application.
Okay, I guess my question is for the showcases. It's being used to display, obviously they're display cases, but they're not used. Well, I guess my question was, they're not, the purpose of them isn't to preserve historic, the documents. It's keeping them once they're in there. It's keeping the documents moisture controlled and climate controlled, all that. But the cases, and this is where I'm kind of torn on my thoughts. So I said, the cases aren't actually preserving it except for the things that are in it at the time. But yet they're preserving, then would they still
From
be
our
eligible?
perspective, yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. That was my question. Would they still be
Yeah,
eligible?
from our perspective, we cannot display these items without cases of this quality, because you're immediately exposing them to all of those preservation concerns like humidity, theft, vandalism, all of those things that you get with an average case. So we are not comfortable putting out original town books from 1656 unless they're in an adequate storage environment.
Okay.
Are these cases the kind of things you might see in a museum that has American history in it, like Smithsonian and that kind of place?
I'm not sure if the Smithsonian is a client of theirs, but they are high enough quality.
No, I'm asking a generic, not this specific vendor, but
yeah,
a generic thought.
Yes, they are high enough quality for museum displays.
And are you aware of any other CPAs, CPCs that have actually used CPA money to purchase such items?
Yes, I know of several projects. I'm not aware of any of in Bridgewater, but I do have a list. Let me pull it up.
Okay, well, you're pulling that up, Allison. Just a question for Jennifer, because I know we're going to be losing her soon. And not to put you on the spot, because I know you haven't seen the whole application, but just off the cuff, do you think display cases like that they're not eligible or are eligible?
I would say unless the display cases are necessary to preserve, the artifact, right? If the artifact is going to disappear and disintegrate without this display case, then you could make an argument. But it sounds like the reason for the display case, and again, I haven't seen the application, so I don't know for sure, but from the conversation, it sounds like the reason is because they want to display it,
Right.
right?
And that's what
Not preserve it, they want to display it.
right.
So,
It's keeping it preserved while it's being displayed, but it's not actually preserving the record for,
correct.
okay,
Correct.
that's my thought.
I have my list pulled up. I can read through some of them. There was a project called Pine Hawk Curatorial Display in 2005. It was build secure climate-controlled curatorial display in the Acton Town Hall for artifacts. See, there was.
So this was funded by CP, just clarification, that was funded by Acton Community Preservation money?
It's on the community preservation website, yeah.
Okay, as a funded project, okay.
Yes.
Any others?
Yes, there is an Edgartown Firefighting Museum, and that is for the preservation, rehabilitation, climate control, and display of firefighting artifacts. And that was also funded.
So do you have it, can you tell me how many of those you found on the coalition website?
I have the ones that I pulled, and I don't know if I looked through every page, but I have 12 projects related to creating exhibit spaces for artifacts.
So historically, community preservation committees have looked at this and have funded similar, I'm going to say similar items for display and at the same time conservation, not conservation, but protection of
Yeah.
historically documents. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Okay, I would personally not to put this off. We've talked about it, but personally, I would like to see what was involved in even a few of those towns. Their headings can also be deceiving at times, what it's called. And we've seen that ourselves just in the applications we've received, that the name of the project technically isn't what the project is. I would like to be able to look more into those, just to see what it involved. Did it involve the cases? Did they have other means of preserving the documents in a climate control? Like I know Bridgewater has, I think, a separate room that's all climate controlled. Is for these other towns, was that the only means of their climate control? Or they could be putting things in display cases, using them as a preservation thing, where in this case, they're not being used to preserve because we have a room to preserve them. They're just being used to preserve while they're being showcased. That's my thought. I just like to see more what the other towns have voted on.
And not to interrupt, I'm sorry, but and if you want, I could take a look too, because the two that she just mentioned, I quickly looked up on the website for the coalition, and it looks like those two were permanent storage, preservation storage of the artifacts. And if I heard correctly, they were looking at something to rotate display of materials. So to me, that's a little bit different, right? So if you're looking for permanent preservation storage, that might make a little difference to me versus you're going to rotate things for display out, right?
For yes, you really have to rotate items in exhibit cases if you're planning on preserving them.
Right, but the two ones that you just mentioned from Acton and Edgartown, they were permanent storage for specific artifacts.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if they meant that they were permanent or not. I didn't see the word permanent in there, but they certainly could have been. But I don't know what those towns, what their staff looks like, what their knowledgeability is, but to preserve an item, you cannot leave it permanently in a display case.
Right,
It
but
needs
you have,
investigation.
yeah, I'm sorry, Allison, I didn't mean
Oh, no, yeah.
to interrupt. I guess my question, my thought goes along with what Jennifer was saying too. We have a permanent room that's climate controlled that these items are in. So like she said, the ones, I'm not sure if it was Acton or Edgartown or both, it looked like a permanent, like they had no other space. So that was their whole permanent thing. I understand they have to, the items have to be rotated if you're going to have a display room. I myself wouldn't want to walk in and see the same thing every day for a year. But we have, our library has a climate controlled room to keep the items preserved. So it's not like having displaying them. That's the need for the display cases isn't, to me, preserving them. It's displaying something that's already preserved or it's being preserved.
The display room in the library, as I remember it, is not an inviting space. It used to be under lock and key. It's a place perhaps where scholars would go, but people who were just walking into the library would not be encouraged to go in there. That's why we need display cases. Libraries are supposed to be educational institutions. They're supposed to display artifacts that they have, documents that they have. It's a part of community outreach, and it seems that it is in our purview to encourage community outreach. And the way to do that would be to purchase these display cases, which preserve these important documents and allow the citizenry of Bridgewater to take a look at them. The climate controlled historic room is not an inviting space for the general user of the library.
Bill,
I think it's very important that we move on.
Bill, I agree with everything you said. However, my question is what funding should be used to purchase those cases?
Yeah.
Yeah, they should be. I agree. Things should be displayed. We have them. I've seen some of the stuff that Allison has, some of the books and things, and I think they're priceless. The question is how they should be paid. Because in my thought, and just what I'm hearing from what Jennifer saw in the other towns, I'd like to look at more, is the cases themselves are not needed for the preservation of the records. So therefore, if they're buying cases, and yes, they're climate controlled, that will preserve them for the temporary time they're in there. However, it's not preserving the documents permanently per se. So I agree with what you said. My question is if it should be a CPC funded thing or just a town funded.
So I know that in the application, because I went through every line on it, there are a number of specific elements. For example, the temperature control, that's a separate element, or the monitoring system and that kind of thing are all separate from the actual cases. And then the UV glass, I think it's part of the case. And then you have a couple of other things that are in there that could be not just display, but actually helpful towards preservation. That's what I see in the account. My first question is, or probably my fifth question, is, are there a set of these cases that have the UV glass, the protection and the monitoring, that are a subset of those that actually are critical essential for the public education, the outreach, that kind of thing? In other words, do you need all of them at once?
To make sure I understand the question, are you asking if we can parse this out into different smaller projects and purchase, say, 3 cases at once and then 3 cases later?
Well, that's one element, because the other side of this coin is these things are expensive enough to probably get on a capital list for purchasing, and the town does have a capital account and list, and the town manager, I think it's in the process of just putting something out for 2023. Jennifer, you can help me there. But some of this might be capital purchases for the library. And so
Good
we're
point.
cost sharing with the capital versus the preservation elements. That's what I'm trying to figure out. What's the breakdown?
Mhm.
We could definitely purchase cases at different times. Given the history of how the library has been funded and the building itself, we're just not optimistic that that will be a priority for the town.
Jennifer, do you know, kind of along with what Carlton, I'm sorry, I think I cut in front of you. Do you know if they've put together the capital list for FY23 yet? Or if they're still working on it?
No, I believe it's completed. I don't have a copy here at home, but I can certainly look when I get to the office tomorrow and see what's on the list.
Okay.
I don't
good,
recall
thank you.
any library this type of being on that list.
I'm not sure, but I
I'm
can
not an
certainly check.
expert.
Right.
The last piece, Steve or Harry, you have been very quiet. Do you have any thoughts on this? Or Steve, especially with your background, do you have any experience with this kind of thing?
I don't with preservation of materials. You know, I sometimes feel that this can fall under a portion of preservation, because if you were just going to display it out in the open, it would actually deteriorate, and depending on how long they keep it out on display for. So, but I also see your point of it can be capitalized and paid for under something different versus under CPC. And anything you get into stuff like this, it's big money. I'll admit, I started Googling some of the prices on some of this stuff, and they're right in line. They're not,
Yeah.
you know,
It's
whoever put this together didn't, you know, add like a 10% contingency or anything else on it. I mean, these cases are expensive, but you get what you pay for. So if it's going to help preserve our history, I think it's a great thing to have.
Okay.
I agree with that, Steve. Thank you, and thank you for looking up the researching what you did. I guess I still have the question in my mind: should they be a capital expense for the town? Because again, they're not needed to preserve permanently the records. It's just a temporary preservation, which is still a preservation, I guess. And I agree that the things should be displayed. I just question the purchase, if it's a CPA or CPA funded, or if it should be a town funded.
Harry, do you have any thoughts on this, please?
No, I'm just listening. Nothing comes to my mind right at the moment.
Mhm. Thanks, Harry. I personally would like to see look more into what these other towns did, and if any of them have paid for temporary display cases. And if Jennifer could see, like, check, I don't recall seeing the I think I saw a capital list.
It is online. I just pulled it from online. The only items for the library are mostly building related items, so I don't see any other library items.
It's a parking lot on the roof that I saw.
Yeah, there's like carpet, roof, parking lot. There's a couple other like things like that. I think they're doing camera upgrades to the library, door replacement. But I think the thing to know too, though, is the capital plan is a living document, right? And things can be added. It's not like you can't, just because it's not in there right this second, doesn't mean if that's an item for the capital plan, they can't add it to the capital plan. I mean, that certainly can be added. It won't happen in 2023, but it might be able to happen in 2024. I mean, you don't know that.
Well, they have gone back and had a special edition.
Yeah, that is true too.
They did have one thing, and I guess I go, and that goes, we understand the importance, but the urgency of this document preservation, the element of this, I absolutely think we should be moving forward with funding of that. I think we need to do some more due diligence on the cases. And so we can do 2 or 3 things. We can not take a vote tonight on this and ask for more information, get more information in. We can do a partial vote and say we'll fund X amount of stuff so the preservation of those magnificent historic documents could go forward. Or we can say no. So those are the choices I see, and my preference would be to hold off until the May meeting, given this discussion, to get a little bit more detail and hopefully be able to get an amendment to the capital program to help support this through capital money.
Mhm.
And if that's the case, I do have a list that I went through that I thought that would be preservation related, not just cases, but preservation related. So we could do partial funding of this. But I'm going to stop because I think it's up to the committee to decide and somebody to move, not make a motion, to move.
I just have to interrupt. I have to run now, but if you guys decide to continue this and you want some more input from me, if I could get a copy of the application and any other information, I'd be happy to give you additional input.
We can
Okay.
send you a link.
Yeah,
Okay,
Josh,
perfect.
Josh, will you send that to Jennifer?
All right. Have a good night, everyone. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Jennifer, for your help.
You're welcome.
Thanks for coming. Bye-bye.
Yep. Bye-bye.
The other piece is I was hoping Steve Rogan would be on this because he does deal with this kind of thing more with his historic courtroom stuff. So I'd like to get more input from the committee, but again, I was hoping we would all be here, but I said I would stop and I'll let the committee decide.
I also think
Okay.
that if you're looking at compare cases, you're gonna have to find a case that is the same thing, that's not gonna preserve stuff permanently. Like the fire station one, the stuff is preserved permanently in the fire station. It's not rotated. So you'd have to find a case where they got money the same way we want to use this one. If not, you're not comparing apples to apples.
Mhm. My thought is, and thank you, Carlton, for addressing the options we had. I agree with putting it off, and if you until May, and Allison, I hate to do this to you by putting it off. It's just we want to make sure we're doing our due diligence in this. Could you? I request that Carlton said he has a breakdown of like what's historic and excluding the cases and things like that. What's preservation, I should say, of historic. Can you put together like just a breakdown, and Carlton, can you put yours together too? Just so when we come to the next meeting in May, if we decide that the cases are not fundable by CPA funds, however, the rest is, we have a dollar amount to assign to it. If that makes sense.
Am I putting a breakdown together as well as Carlton?
I can provide input as to what I went through and sort of looked at every line and said yes or no, question mark, whatever. I can actually get that to you for thinking purposes.
That would be
I'm
great.
happy to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
That's
don't think we should be so reticent in our decision-making processes. And I don't think that we have to look to precedents of other towns. If this is a proposal that we think is valuable and important to the community, I think we should have the initiative to approve it. Just because it's a little bit different from the one in Acton and Edgartown, we shouldn't totally discount these display cases. I mean, if 10 years ago, 15 years ago, preservation of churches by CPCs was verboten. So I really think we're being a bit too reticent here by relying exclusively on past precedents. I think we need to get the state to weigh in here and tell us, is this eligible for CPC funding? these display,
Cor-
are they eligible for CPC funding or not?
Mhm.
And we ought to go from there. And also Allison's, I thought, most salient point was that if we don't have the display cases, then these historical documents cannot be displayed. They will not be preserved. They will not be protected.
Okay, again, Bill, I agree with you. They should be displayed. They should be protected. However, in my mind is, should the cases be funded by the town? The cases themselves are not preserving the documents. They are temporarily, but are they? We have a climate controlled room to preserve them. The question becomes, and I agree, it's they should be done. I agree with what everybody's saying. My question is how the cases should be funded. I think they're needed, but the question is how are they to be funded? And my thought on Acton, when I hear the town Acton, remember they're the ones that, not saying any town can be questioned, but Acton is the one that because of Acton, it's now that whole 3-point check for funding church things.
Right.
So I think the project is very worthwhile. I would like to see a permanent vote because not all our votes are permanent. I would like to see a hold off until we see a breakdown of what we definitely deem historic preservation versus the cases. That we come in May and we can research. We'll write to Stuart.
Well, Gina, if I might interrupt, please.
You did ask him before.
We've asked and we don't have a clean, clear, hard answer.
Mhm.
But the only way we can get that is to request an opinion from DOR.
Okay.
That could take a long time as to
Yeah.
fundability under this. But I think there's enough questions here and enough support and questions either side that we might want to do that. That's what my suggestion is going to be. I also think to get those documents preserved, which is really the most critical element here, that if we could ask that Allison, and she may have done that already, but if we get a package that says that we want to preserve these two major documents and digitize them at the same time as a minor component, I think we could get that process started next
Correct.
meeting.
Mhm. Good.
So
I agree.
So my motion would be to postpone, and this is the motion, to postpone action on this until the May meeting. And basically the actions that we've discussed tonight would be addressed in the next month.
Second.
Okay, discussion. My part of the discussion is I agree wholeheartedly with the motion. Any other discussion? Steve, Bill, Harry? Okay.
Just one question. This is more of a procedural question. If we approve the purchase of equipment as part of a grant, does that have to be purchased during the fiscal year, or can it be purchased? I know the state guidelines are probably different from town guidelines, but can equipment be purchased and installed after the new fiscal year begins, or does it have to be, because we're running toward the end of the fiscal year right now?
Right. If it comes out of the admin account, technically it should be spent before, but as Jennifer said, it could roll over if we have specified years. If it's an encumbrance, it will carry over.
Oh, okay.
If it's a project, it will carry over.
Okay. Okay, good. So that won't be a complication.
Right, right. Okay, any more discussion? Okay, hearing none. Josh, roll call?
Gina,
Yes.
Carlton,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes,
Bill,
Yes,
Steve.
Yes,
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, great. So Allison,
So,
we'll send you the list and you can just check if you have anything to add or whatever, and then he can get it out to us, so we'll have it sent out to the committee.
Gina, I also think we need to ask DOR as a
Right,
committee.
okay, that's right. That was the second part of my thing that
And
I
I don't
forgot
think we need a
already.
motion. It's part of our due diligence. So,
Right, right.
and
So
I
we'll
think
write-
they'll need to see the whole proposal. So let's move that forward.
Okay, great, thank you.
have we ever had a proposal that we funded that was rescinded because the state slapped us on the wrist or anything like that?
Not
or is
that I'm
that-
aware of.
Has that ever happened with the CPC committee? Just out of probably has.
I'm not aware of any, but basically
Me
what
neither.
happens is, for example, the Acton Church thing, somebody would say, we don't think it's fundable. And so then you get an opinion from the judicial court. But in this case, we can get an opinion from the Department of Revenue as to whether or not this specific set of items is CPA eligible. We need to get that opinion. And that will have far-reaching impact on the overall programs, okay?
Mhm.
That's why I think we may need to do that. I just hesitate because it's going to take so long.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think at the other side of the coin, I think the town needs, and the library and Allison and the director need to be really submitting something just to cover basis. We should be submitting some kind of, and I don't know if they were even asked for it, but some kind of capital purchase that would support this also. I think that would go a long way to helping our decision.
But we know about the history of the town and its funding of the library.
I'm not gonna go there. I know, believe me, I lived it.
Yeah, yeah. You were on the library
I
committee.
was chair when the library almost got shut down.
Yeah.
But we're trying to turn a corner and look forward, and we're trying to get the CPC and the CPA funding done in a consistent manner. So I think this is due diligence that we owe the applicant to chase down ourselves in terms of DOR opinion. That's my thought.
Okay, we'll look forward to that analysis by DOR.
And with permission, I will work with Allison a little bit more in terms of breakdown and thinking about these elements. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That is very appreciated.
And I think you wrote a fantastic proposal. It just has a lot of things that we have to do. We're dealing with public money, so we have to do our job to make sure it's okay.
Okay, great. Thank you, Allison. Thank you, everybody, for the discussion. And I just realized I hadn't forwarded Josh, and it's saying I can't do it. Our March financials that we got this afternoon.
We did get them.
Yeah, we got them late today when I was running between stops. Then looking at the other thing, I forgot this, and I'm trying to forward it to, and of course, usually she includes Josh, but didn't this time.
So we're going back on agenda right now.
Yeah. Okay, let me move Carlton's picture to get to send the Zoom thing. Oops, I don't know what I did.
So Gina, where
Josh,
are
we
we
just-
on the agenda? Are we on citizens open forum, or are we in minutes, or where?
We're on public comments. Okay, hearing none, we will move on. Approval of the minutes. Carlton, you sent something that I was gonna write back and say.
Yeah, I'm
okey-dokey.
gonna ask, I read the minutes, and I think I'm gonna ask for a postponement on those, because I have several things. I think Josh has done a great job, but I think our financial discussions that we had the actual vote in terms of percentages and that dollar amount needs to go into the minutes. So if people have had a chance to read them and they don't have comments, fine. But I would like to submit potential corrections and additions to Josh, and then have him work on the minutes a little bit more before we finalize it, if that's okay.
Sounds good to me. Any other comments, discussion on that?
And that's for the 323. I actually had one of the same comments on the 4-4 meeting also.
Okay. Any other discussion on that? I don't think we need a motion on it, just to hold it till the next month.
Yeah.
Okay. And Harry, Steve, any questions or discussion? Steve would have to abstain from it anyways, but you can at least see what we did. Okay, so I think that's a good idea. Okay, and I don't think we need a vote for it. Josh, I just emailed you the financial reports.
Okay, give me just a moment.
Do we need to go over that tonight?
No,
Since
we don't have
haven't
to.
had a chance to look at them.
Okay, no, we
In the
don't have
interest of
to.
time.
Okay, so we'll put that off till the next meeting too. Old business.
But we'll send it to everybody regardless, right?
Right,
Okay.
right. Okay, Josh, you don't need to open that now if you just want to send it out to the committee. That would be
Okay.
great.
Will do.
Okay, old business and FY23 recommended budget. They say third time's a charm. I really hope so, because the first time we submitted it, we had to do a revote because we hadn't taken into consideration the debt service, which was listed. We explained all that at the April 4th meeting. We came up with a new budget. We changed percentages and figures. We took, and we now have the perfect understanding of setting this budget. Usually, yeah, you have to put in a minimum of 10%. Most times it's 10%, but we try to be more realistic by showing future projects, anticipated projects. We deducted the debt service off incorrectly. That was my fault, and I take the blame. I misguided us. Not intentionally. It was just, I guess I didn't understand it. So I'm saying an awful lot of ums in here. Sorry about that. So when we submitted it, the revote from April 4th, and I thought this is great, we got it all set. Well, the finance director wrote back to me that the housing bucket didn't have 10%. So we need to revote that. We had to change a couple of the percentages to make everything balance out. So we're just looking to rescind the last vote.
I move to rescind the April 4th budget submission.
Second.
You can
Second,
second it.
a second.
Okay, Bill, any discussion? Hearing none. Josh, roll call, please.
Gina,
Yes.
Carlton,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes,
Bill,
Yes.
Steve. Steve, I think you're muted.
Yes,
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, good, thank you. Josh, if you can put up the budget thing that I sent you.
Okay, give me just a moment.
Okay. Count, do you have a chance to quick look at it? Oh, I sent it to you late just to make sure that.
Yeah, it's fine. I will add one element to what Gina said. Because we put the percentages so high on a couple of the accounts, it messed up how the formalization of the budgeting document behaves. So it comes up with an unbalance. If you use too high a percentage in the reserve accounts, it basically sends it into a negative balance. the way it's set up. So we had to correct those percentages, which is now on the screen. And quickly, as you'll recall, in the middle of this, you see that Gina's included for housing 10%, for open space reserve 30%. We had 50% there before, and the historical reserve was, I forget, 20 or 25%, because that pushed that total appropriation to above 55% of the budget. That caused it to go out of balance in the long term. So we
Right.
just have to go to budget.
Great, thank you. And that 55% is in this current year because it's, you have to
Right.
deduct the debt service. And right now we're still paying for the Academy building in the Keith Homestead, both the principal and the interest. In another year, if the bond, the debt is more or less, that 55% will change, but as Carlton said, that's what we needed to for this current year.
So while I'll point out, if you go too high in the percentages, that thing that says budgetary reserves under this scenario would go negative, and that causes a imbalance in the budget. So you have to reduce the percentages in the reserve accounts sufficiently to enable that to be a zero or positive number, which is what this does now.
Okay, good. Josh, can you just scroll up for a second? I just want to make sure, because this is what I did the first time, or I guess scroll down, whichever, so we see the bottom line. Okay, total surplus and deficit. If I had scrolled down all the way the first time, I would have known that we're the 395,000 debt service caused the deficit. Okay, so we had $1,025,250,000 to spend. Break down into the pots, as Carlton just said, our community housing, open space, and historical resources. Those plus we had agreed, what didn't change was we had agreed 40,000 for the administrative budget, the debt service, anything above and beyond those categories deducted from the 1,250,000 is $1,025,000. I'll get that number right. Goes into a budgetary reserve. So that's where the 25,900 comes in. So I guess just a motion to recommend the budget is shown on the screen.
This budget doesn't reflect the money that we have that's going to roll over. This is just the FY23 budget. Is that right?
Right. What that
Yeah.
budget is that you just saw built every year by Mass General Law, we have to prepare the budget like at least 10% in the pots and no more than 5% for admin. But that's just on the estimated revenue for the year.
Okay.
So it's based
Yep.
on the state match and the CPA surcharge on our taxes.
Right. I know this was very difficult, and thank you for all this hard work, Gina and Carlton. It's I think you've got to have a master's in accounting to figure out these budgets and these. They're designed not to be understood by the likes of us.
Motion to approve the budget as presented.
I second it.
Thank you.
Okay, discussion. And Bill, thank you for your
Really?
high fives. We have
Really?
it down pat now. Next year, 1 vote, not 3. Okay, any discussion? Josh, roll call?
Gina,
Yes.
Carlton,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Great, thank you. Whew. Finance director will be glad we got it right. Okay, funded project update, Central Square Congregational Church. As you know, we're still working on the deed restriction, the PAL, and I can never remember what it stands for. Barbara, you can, or somebody can fill in what PAL stands for.
I just had that written in front of me. And where is it now? Okay, it stands for Public Archaeology Laboratory.
Okay, they're the ones that are now, as we know, carrying the deed restriction. They were in receipt of the letter, which I thought when we sent the letter, they had asked us to send the letter as a notice to proceed, but now they want the contract, which makes sense, having the contract. The woman, Ginny Adams from PAL, had asked if we wanted to, the town wanted to do the contract off them. The town manager said for them to do it, so they're in the process of preparing that. So once they get that and sends it to us, we'll just have the town manager review it and sign it. Then hopefully, fingers crossed, it all goes fine. So that's our update on the funded part. We're gonna hit your other thing in a bit. We're just trying to stay kind of in order. Questions on that by Barbara or Gordon?
I was wondering, Gina, if when it's signed, that maybe I could see it or my committee could see it.
Yeah.
Or out of
We'll
interest,
we'll
the
get you a
contract?
copy of it.
Okay,
Yeah, no problem. And
Okay, thank you.
That's good for you to have on hand too. Okay, pickleball courts are wonderful. They look great. They're getting a ton of use. We just have to, they're completed. We just have, and a sign is up there. Actually, we should have put the sign in for the next meeting. And it says partially funded by Bridgewater Community Preservation. So that's up per our requirements. I just have to make sure I can check with Laurie and Jim Small, who's the superintendent of Parks and Rec, that all the bills have been submitted and paid. And then that can just be closed out. So that's, we did Memorial Building, McCowan School, applications received, the library. We talked about that, Central Square Congregational Church phases 2 and 3. Excuse me. Our thought is, well, my thought is, and looking for thoughts from the CPC, is that we hold off on those for like acting on it. For a couple of reasons. We want to make sure that deed restriction is set. And also, as you can see, just from what we have for projects, we're just getting a handle on dollars that from other requests where you folks already received a request. We're trying to share the wealth too, to just get a handle on all the projects and their funding and make a decision based on that. And again, making sure the restriction is in place. Carlton?
Yeah, I just want to add, I did send to the church another potential funding source that I'm not sure if they've explored or not, but I did send the church some information, and it's the same outfit that's funding the grant application went in for the roof replacement of the town hall. And those folks, we understand, had fewer applications than anticipated and more money to spend than they expected for this current round. So the next round, the church should be looking seriously at some of these elements going for funding in that way. So just to give an update there, I've sent some additional information to the church. Hopefully you did receive it.
Barbara? You're muted.
You're still muted.
You're still muted, Barbara.
how's that?
Oh, you got it.
Okay. Carlton, did you send that to the church? Because
I
they
sent it to
did,
you. I sent it
To
to you, I
me.
thought.
And you were away, right, Barbara? So
I was away.
Yeah,
if
but
you could,
just check your emails.
Carlton's name on it?
It would have Carlton Hunt on it, yes.
Oh, I wouldn't have deleted you if I saw Carlton Hunt.
Well, anyway, if you can't find it, let me know and I'll resend it to you. I was funky in health-wise last week, so I may have not got it out the way I thought. So, but anyway, there is this state funding that could potentially support your activities.
Yes, we'd be very interested in that. Thank you.
And you know, the town put in for about the roof restoration. I think the town appropriated well over $100,000 for that roof to be repaired. So it could be possible that you can get money there for your roof
Oh,
and other
great.
parts.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
yep, thank you, Carlton, for, I'm just looking to see, it. I know I saw it, that you sent it. I don't see it quickly. I was just looking to make sure that Barbara was included on it. I think I was just copied, so,
Let's move on.
yeah.
Barbara, I
Yeah.
have a question for you. I'm holding the Gale evaluation of building enclosure, Central Square Church, blah, blah, blah. This long booklet with all the
Yes.
detail. I know there are not many copies of this. Are you folks in possession of one copy of this?
Yes,
I
we
sent
have one
this-
possession.
Okay,
One
because
copy.
I saved it from the Historic District Commission meeting that we had. And I just wanted to let you know that I do have a copy if you need it.
I
Or
know.
if the committee needs it.
Yes, I remembered you had the copy.
Yeah, okay. It's on my desk in safekeeping, so.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, anything else from CPC members or the church folks on that update?
I have a question.
Sure.
I'm not positive. Do we take the siding off or not take the siding off? Has that been decided?
Good question.
Well, it was my understanding when you came before the Historic District Commission that the siding was going to be removed no matter what. And replaced with appropriate architectural siding for that period, which would be wood, I imagine.
Mm-hmm. I think his question, Bill, and Gordon, correct me if I'm wrong, because sometimes the memory doesn't serve me well. The question is, we voted to fund the steeple, which it has siding on it. When that's done, but in their phase 2 or 3, I'm not sure which phase it's in, is to reside the whole building. So their question was, and again, Gordon, correct me if I'm wrong, was should they have the siding removed now and not knowing about funding the whole building because they can't afford to do the whole building themselves? So that's the question. Was I right on that, Gordon?
Yes. Well, kind of the general opinion is if we remove the siding and then we're not so sure when we're going to get approval for phase 3, we could have a building that's half the siding's off and the rest of it's siding. Wouldn't look too well. So we're kind of saying if we're going to have a commitment on the whole building, going to replace the siding, so be it. We'll take it off. Other than that, I don't think we want to take the siding off in the steeple and have the building look half done.
Right. Now, a question. I know you had a grant from somebody to do the part of the work that had to be done before a certain date. Was that the people that were pulling off the siding, or is it part of what we're funding from CPA funds to remove the siding on the steeple?
Gordon, you want me to answer that?
Yes, please.
Okay, no, it had to be earmarked for a particular renovation, and that was earmarked for the louvers and the windows in the steeple. That has been done.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you. And I was gonna ask you for that too, I meant
It's
to
completed.
ask that back when we talked about the update for it. So that's good that that part's done. And that was what,
Yes.
$10,000? I think.
Yes.
Yeah,
10,000.
10,000.
14.
Yeah, that's good. I'll have to look at it when I go by, walking by, not driving by.
Exactly.
Okay, good. I guess for now we just hold off because you can't start, Gordon, to answer your question about removing the siding or not. You can't start the work till the deed restriction is in place, so therefore we'll hopefully by then we'll have an answer for the rest, on your phase 2 or 3. If that makes sense.
We might have to do some work on the weather vane up there. We don't know how long we can wait on that. That's not in very good condition. as far as
Okay,
I
was
go.
that in phase 2 or 3?
No, it's in
One.
it's in phase 1 for the steeple, but it's in very bad condition right now.
Okay,
As you drive around through the town, you look at it, you can see the rod up there. And we don't want the weather vane falling down.
right. Again, any work done before the deed restriction is in place is, somebody correct me on this, or help me out here. The deed restriction needs to be in place before any work can be done. It's funding from the town. Carlton, you saying something? Or you were coughing? Gotcha. Well, I thought he said something and then his arm went up, so.
Carlton's costs are significant.
Okay.
Because I've been
Carlton, did you
talking
have
too
something
much.
to add to that?
To close this conversation a little bit. The deed restriction is still the critical path. It's
Mhm.
underway. The contract will be signed shortly. She can deliver that soon. And once that's done, we get the grant agreement to you all, and then we can move forward.
Right,
Sorry about the
And-
protocols, but that's where we're at.
right. So we need the grant agreement in place before any work can be done that's paid by CPC. And if it should be no time at all. And I think if I remember Pal's timeline, it wasn't all that long before they could produce a deed restriction. If I remember right, it wasn't an unreasonable amount, like months and months. So I hope that answers your question, Gordon, about the weather vane and the siding. Anything else on?
I didn't really get a good answer on the siding. Could you just explain it to me one more time?
Well, if taking off of the steeple is dependent upon you receiving an award, a CPA award on phases 2 and 3, I guess what I said was the work can't be started on the steeple till the deed restriction is in place. That gives some time for us to look at the application more. Because you can't take it down until the deed restriction is in place anyways.
Gordon, let me try to answer it a little bit simpler. I would not do
Thank
it.
you.
I would not start taking siding off without funding to replace it.
I agree with that.
And if there's a critical piece that's rotting away, that's slightly different. But in general, I just don't, from a practical perspective, and I'm not an architect, but I would not be removing that siding until you had the funds in place to get everything done.
Are we talking about the siding on the church or the siding on the
Of
steeple?
any kind, of any
Both.
kind.
Both.
The removing of the siding, if it's decided that we have to do that, if you looked on the document, it calls for expenditure of $80,000 just for the staging. And we won't have that kind of money on the steeple. So it's kind of, they're tied in together. So just another consideration.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, is there siding on the steeple? That's my question. Is there siding on the steeple, and did we fund in phase one, as part of the restoration of the steeple, the removal of the siding and the replacement of it? I mean, clearly you can't do anything until the preservation restriction is issued. But I can't remember the application clearly enough to determine if we did fund the removal of the siding or the replacement of the siding on the steeple. Does anybody remember that?
I think all the siding of the church comes in phase 3. And that's why,
Okay.
and so that's why when we do restore the steeple, we have to leave that siding on until we take the siding off the entire church, which
Okay.
would be phase 3. So we would do every restoration possible on the steeple that we can do and not the siding.
Okay.
Okay, that makes
Okay.
sense. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Because removing the siding would possibly jeopardize the building.
Definitely.
At this point, making
Right.
it more vulnerable to weather and everything else.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for those of you that clarified. Sometimes I get long-winded on my explanations and I apologize. But thank you for the clarification, and Barbara, that it's all in phase 3. None of it's in the steeple part. Nothing's in the phase 1. Thank you. Gordon, does that answer for you?
It does. I have to look at my records. I'm not completely agreeing with Barbara on it, I'm afraid. I think I have some documents that would call for the siding to come off, but
Okay, if you guys can, as we said, we're not taking a vote on it tonight. If you can check that, and we can check back with the application to see how it was written too. So we'll do that. Okay, any other discussion on the church's application for phase 2 and 3, phases 2 and 3? Nope, I thought Barbara she was muting herself. I thought she was coming back on. Okay, moving on to possible project updates that we received eligibility forms, but or have not received eligibility forms, but they may be in the works, maybe looking for CPC funding. The town hall, also known as the townhouse roof repair restoration.
You asking for an update?
Yep, please.
Yeah, the town hall application, the Mass Historic asked for some additional information for the proposal that the town put together. The town clerk submitted that, I believe, late last week, and there was lots of updates that needed to be done, lots of images and pictures, etc. So that's moving forward. But the town has appropriated enough money to cover the cost. If we get the grant, then it will cover 50% of the cost. And so that's in good hands right now with the state anticipating. Here's the thing: the state is anticipating coming down and looking at the town hall. If they in fact do come down, I would like to get them. I think we talked about it last meeting. Get them to come over and look at the church also and talk with the church about what they're possible. And that is the agency that I sent the information on, Barbara.
That's a great idea. That's really a good idea.
So let's move on.
Okay, I apologize, I missed the end of that, but somebody can fill me in. Okay, the tool park.
Again, the fire station passed. The rec piece is an element that's already in there. They're going out to bid. That bid will include design work for the walking area, the recreational part of it. And at some point, we'll probably come back with, and they talked several times in the town meetings and briefing sessions that they had about trying to connect the tool area walking area to the Murray Needs Farm. And so that's, I'm not sure where that's at, but that's probably a year to 2 years out in terms of that actually trying to make that connection.
Okay, good. My only comment for that is, you said an RFP has gone out to, and it includes the recreational part. As being on the Parks and Rec Commission, I've requested of the fire station building committee, I'm sure they have a different name, but that recreation be included in the plan in devising a recreational area, considering that the Tool property was originally left to the town for passive recreation. I just want to see recreation involved in it. I've been told we would. If something's gone out for an RFP, Parks and Rec knows nothing about it. That I know the RFP for the way Colin said includes many other things. However, Parks and Rec needs to be included. As I said, especially since that was the original purpose of the land. And I know it's been, the family has said, yes, they can use it for the fire station. However, Parks and Rec, as I said, needs to be included and not left out completely. Okay. Just my thought on that one. Okay, any other discussion on the tool pack, the trails?
I'm sure we're not going to have any say-so about the design of the new fire station, are we? I mean, that would not fall under our purview.
Right.
That's very unfortunate. Marshfield, where we have our summer house, is building a new fire station, and it's so beautiful. The one in Duxbury is magnificent. I wish that we could make these public buildings a little more attractive, a little more traditional. I don't think we want another public building to look like the police department.
It will not look that way.
I hope not. I really
conceptual. Have you seen the conceptual design?
No, I haven't.
Well,
that's
I'll
good.
send you an image.
Yeah, it looks nice.
It's very well done.
That's really encouraging to hear.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else on the tool pack? Okay, the next one, the Methodist Church for Historic Preservation. They are in the process of getting prices and putting together their eligibility form. So that's still in process. One of the problems they have is same as probably all of us. I know I've encountered it. You call contractors and you don't get calls back. And that's what they're running into, trying to get people to give prices. But they are working on it. Next, eligibility forms received. Jennings Hill Cemetery. We received their eligibility form. We needed more information. However, there's a part that we can vote on tonight. For Carlton, do you want to
Oh, okay, thanks.
explain that?
Yes, the application was for, I'm going to round number, $100,000, but what our form was a little bit goofy, so they couldn't get the details into it. And in various conversations, including today, I've talked with Richard and Kathy regarding what we could do with the eligibility form. We can't really act on it because we don't have scope. We don't know what the details are, but we have an eligibility form. In order to act on the eligibility form, we need to have some additional information about an assessment of the cemetery. In other words, somebody to go in and say, you need to do this, you need to do that, this needs to be done, etc. And that can be broken down into a series of fundable tasks if they're eligible. So I'm recommending to the committee tonight that we actually use administrative money to, and this is totally allowable underneath the, when we don't know what's really happening and we have something like this before us, we can actually pay for an assessment of that cemetery. And so I'm suggesting that we fund from the administrative account $6,500 for the
Assessment study.
to actually hire someone to come in and do the assessment, do whatever, and however we can get that detail so we can identify the tasks, the cost associated with the tasks, and then we can actually do an eligibility determination. So that's my request to the committee tonight, was actually to put a vote forward, a motion forward to in fact fund $6,500 for an assessment of that particular property.
And that would also be contingent upon a completed eligibility form. Correct?
Well, I think they can put details in the eligibility, but I don't think that that's a contingency. I think we can, because we don't know what it is. We would like to have more details of what you're looking for. That would be the only contingency. Is exactly what you're looking to have funded. You know, is it cleaning of stones? Is it standing of stones up? What is it? Is it a repair of the gate? You know, those kinds of things. Without that, we can't really even make a decision. So,
right.
Yes,
So
we need a little bit more detail, but I'll agree that the contingency should be there. Contingent would be that we receive some details as to what they might be expecting.
Carlton, Gina.
Yes.
Yes, Rich, go ahead.
Just to briefly go back on what Carlton said, the answer to that, the very short answer is yes. The things that he mentioned, those are the things that we have in mind. But because we don't know the eligibility, and it'd be better to have somebody come in and do the screening work for this, it would help us to narrow it down to what we, you know, what is coverable, rather than just go take pot shots at things we think might be coverable and come up and go through all the work of putting an estimate together for a full scope. It's better to have an assessment done.
Correct.
Who would do this assessment? I mean, are there agencies or are there professionals who would do this?
Yes, we've been waiting for 3 years to try to raise funding. We've raised, as you all know, a little bit of funding for supplies and training people and all that. But the professional surveyor is known actually through the whole country. He keeps contacting me. I'm willing to come, but like even for this year, he's really filling up fast with people around the country that are doing the same thing as we're trying to do with Jennings and other cemeteries. So the whole thing is, I just got an email last week from him, and he said, please, I really want to come. I've been waiting to come, but he needs to have some sort of money to put down the date, as he's put that date off for Jennings. So that's what we've been trying to get together, is enough to do that, to do exactly what you want to do. We know that. And we've also had problems with contractors as well. But in the meantime, we still, as some of you know, we've had fencing companies out there for the last year and a half. They've given us different estimates. We have vandalism there now with cars driving up over stones. We have the encroaching, as you all know, problems with the easement. That is really bad. So this will help us get that part of the road together, you know, so then we can go on, right, Rich? Yep. By getting this right.
I'm going to interrupt for a second. Cemeteries are one of the key things that CPA is intended and to restore historic cemeteries. That's very many precedents set there, including in West Bridgewater.
Oh yeah.
Okay, great. I just have two questions now. Can't guarantee I'm not going to have more throughout the discussion. Can you get prices, like, you know, the easement has to be done, you know, the stones have to be cleaned and the gate repaired, and all the things you listed. Can you get prices for those without having a complete assessment done?
Well, we have some of those prices already, but for the assessment, no, we need that. We need to do mapping. We need to do the whole thing, as any of you have been out there. And in order to do that and go forward, we need to have this gentleman come out and do it. And he's done it for 40 something years around the country, you know. So he also, when he does that, either later that day, if there's time left over, or the next day. He will also do a training session for anyone in the town, the DPW. We've already talked to Paul, or anyone really. We also, this year, got voted by Bridgewater State University. We've been trying to get them to vote for their community program for volunteer hours, and they voted on the board about 2 months ago that they would work with us as well. That, you know, especially in the fall, but if they have any students that are going to be there during the summer, they hope to work with us. So things are happening. It's just not as fast as we would like, but this, by getting the funding for this now, we'll be able to get this gentleman in for June, hopefully, because he's then going across the country doing the same thing.
Just a point, because it's admin money, we have to get it spent before June 30th.
Oh, that's no
Okay.
problem, hopefully, as long as we can get it and promise it, you know, to him, then that shouldn't be a problem.
I think
Okay,
this, I want to say, I think this is a very worthwhile project, and it is made to order for CPA funds. But don't you think we need some kind of formal contract with this fellow? Some kind of,
We don't, they do.
Right.
Right, we do.
Town does not.
No,
well,
the
what
town-
if the cost exceeds $6,500? I mean, we've seen this happen with the Congregational Church and the Preservation Grant. The cost is going, perhaps maybe more. So we really need to take a look at that contract and find out what this piece of the assessment's going to cost, that piece, that piece, that piece. We don't want these folks to be stuck with a bill that exceeds $6,500. And they'll have to come back to us for additional funding. And if it's at the end of the fiscal year, I don't know how that can be handled.
Right, the contract, if the town is paying, the contract has to be with the town and this person, as we're doing with preparing the deed restriction.
Right.
If the Jennings Hill organization were paying, the contract would be between them and this person,
Right.
that's going to come out. Where the
I see.
town is paying, it's the same thing for the deed restriction. For the church, the town paid, so the contract has to be between the town and Mr. Cemetery Assessment. I don't know his name, so that's what I'm calling him for now, for lack of a name. The contract
do you
has
have
to
a-
be with the town.
Do you have a quote from him at all?
Yes, and he actually, last week when he emailed me, he's willing to go with last year's prices as well. But
Okay,
his,
so that quote under $6,500?
yes,
Then I think
how-
Bill's concern is well taken. But if you have a quote and documentation at this point, you can submit it to us. But that shouldn't stop our vote tonight.
Yeah. I agree. I just want them to be protected and not be stuck
Right.
with $10,000 bill.
thank you.
Mhm. Kathy, what is the amount on his quote?
And right now, I think it was, oh, right, it was 38. I have. we've
It's
got-
under 6,500.
Yes,
So I think
yes,
if it's
it is.
even if it's 200 or 1,000, it's not so relevant as having enough money to cover it and then a little bit of the bonus. If they don't spend it, it comes back to us.
Right.
Right, I would like to see, and I agree, we should put a little above like we did in the other things. But the 6,500 is almost double of what his quote is. So I would like to see something down, more reasonable. And I know if they don't spend it, it comes back to the town. However, I would still like to see it more realistic.
I'm going to take exception to that. I think we need to fund sufficient money because there's so much unknown. It could be so unanticipated that it could go up. And rather than to come back for more money, I would rather have enough money in the kitty, and we do have the funds. So,
Right, but according to what Kathy just said, he is willing to go by his price of 3,500. So if we even put a contingency above that, I don't think we need to almost double it.
The only- if I could say something, Gina, to you.
Sure.
The only other issue is, one thing he did bring up was his costs are going to be up because he has to get a hotel overnight, he has to bring a crew. And then we also, depending upon what work he can train people to do the next day, because he usually does it in two things. You know, he does the survey and assessment, and then because he wants to have what he's coming to do for Jennings, which is different than some of the other things he does. Other things he does is when there's a place for a lot of parking, he holds a full day seminar the following day. We don't have that advantage anymore at Jennings, as you know, the problem there with the parking and easement. So the.
Okay, I
So
thought
I'm
you were
just saying,
saying his,
yeah,
I thought-
other costs might go up, just the assessment won't.
right, I thought you were saying the whole kit and caboodle was 3,500.
No, and we also have to supply with, for the part that he's going to do with training some of the locals, which won't be many. We've already invited Steve Rogan before. I don't know if he's still going to be able to do it. Anyone from there, if you want to learn how to do the stones, you're welcome to come the following day, you know, because it's going to take him 2 days probably. So,
So I
Okay,
would like to
and
offer
have
a
you,
motion.
okay, let me just finish this. Have you contacted what did I say before? The Sons of the American Revolution that goes out and cleans stones and does all that, and will show that.
no, because we already have people that have trained under us, as well as other people now with Bridgewater State University. They're going to be sending specific crew that are interested in history and preservation out to us, but they're waiting to hear from us when that stuff is going to start. And we can't really do that without him, because we need to start training more people than we can just do. Correct?
Okay,
You
so,
understand that, right?
right, so he's not going to, I don't know, this is where I'd like to see an eligibility form to see what's actually included and to see quotes of what it's involved, proposals.
We can't do an eligibility form until we really have details. We won't have details until we get an assessment. So
Right, but we can
move-
see
I'm making a motion, please. I move that we provide $6,500 from our admin account to have and conduct an assessment of the Jennings Hill Cemetery, contingent upon some additional detail being provided by the Jennings Hill folks.
Second, Harry.
Okay, discussion? Okay, Harry, anything to add? Or comment?
No, I go along with giving them the money. It comes back, and it might even come back in the next fiscal year, so we have more to spend that year.
Good point. Good point. Okay, Bill, anything to add?
I'm just wondering if we should make this grant contingent on the submission of an eligibility form.
We already have the eligibility form.
But it's okay. Right. I know. I read it. There are no details on it.
Right. And
So the
it doesn't-
resubmission, it would be the resubmission of an eligibility form, contingent on the resubmission of an eligibility form.
We don't, I don't think we need to resubmit an eligibility form. They've submitted it. They're going to give us details under this, and we can't even act on an eligibility. It's not the purpose of the eligibility form. We need to do due diligence. And this is the due diligence that I'm asking for us to, in fact, fund.
Okay, that's fine. I
Thank
agree.
you.
Okay, so whether I'm in agreement or not, that's beside the point. But so just to clarify the motion, that it's contingent upon receiving. So therefore the town Kathy and Rich cannot get a contract for the town to sign until we get the corrected eligibility form. They're revised. Correct?
Confused.
Actually, they just need to submit something. Here's what we need information on: X, Y, Z, and K. Okay, and that's what we're going to have asked to have. Actually, the quote, if there's supporting scope underneath that quote that was provided, that may well be sufficient. So we just need that level of detail.
Sure.
Mhm.
Rich,
Because the-
you understand what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
I do. That makes total sense.
it's just we
But
won't
It's
be
just that
able
we
to.
can't, it doesn't
can't
make sense
hire
to
him
put in
yet,
a full
yeah.
scope of work right now unless we know that it's the right, the right stuff that you guys are gonna be able to cover.
Until you know what the scope should be.
Right,
Right.
right,
But-
exactly.
But that means then that we can't hire him, right? Until it goes for another month or two. So
No,
our
we
concern-
don't have to go, if we vote this tonight, we can move this forward as soon as you guys give us the other. We
Okay,
aren't constrained to go to the town council for this.
Okay.
okay,
Okay, and the only thing I will add to that personally is like what Gina mentioned. We're waiting for my daughter's body to even be transported, and we don't even know when the memorial is. We're hoping in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Understand.
We had hoped to get this done by, so get this done so we could get him to look at his schedule and make a confirmed day of when he can come, either next month or June, but it sounds like we may have to then postpone it a little, so.
Don't postpone your daughter's things.
No,
please.
not my daughter's.
No,
thing. I'm not gonna-
No.
Thank you, Carlton.
Yeah, we're not
Thank
postponing
you.
that.
Yeah.
CPC is important, but it's not as important as other things.
Can we take
Yeah,
the
I
vote,
mean,
please?
we all, I shouldn't speak for everybody. I'm surmising that we all think it's an eligible project. However, we need to vote that it's eligible, I think, before we fund. Just my
Okay.
thought. I'm not trying to hold
If you
anybody
want me to
off
say
on
we're
anything.
voting it's eligible tonight, I will happily modify that amendment because they are eligible for some historic preservation money. There's no question. It's been done repeatedly under CPA.
Right, that's what I said. We all agree that it is eligible.
Right.
But for our record keeping, we do need the updated thing.
Sure.
So I'll amend my motion to say that based on the eligibility application,
The
We-
incomplete eligibility.
the basis of that, okay. You go ahead and say the motion.
I was just gonna say, based on the receipt
Submitted.
of, what was that, Bill?
I would say the submitted eligibility application.
Right, submitted, good point, submitted.
Based on the submitted eligibility recommendation, we vote positive that cemetery restoration is eligible for CPA funds. But we need to have, this motion is contingent upon a little bit more meat being provided in terms of what the expectations are.
Is that a motion?
That's my friendly modification.
Josh, you're gonna have to listen to the tape for that one.
Yeah, at least
Or
a
I
couple
will.
times.
But yeah,
Second.
okay, second by Harry, was that you?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Discussion on the motion.
Anywhere in that motion, did I hear the words agree for $6,500? I didn't hear that.
You're kind of,
Did we, in your motion, Calvin, I didn't hear that we agreed that it would be $6,500.
Oh, it's part of the motion. I said 6,500 in the original motion.
Okay,
okay,
This is just an amendment to it.
okay.
You don't think for purposes of clarity, this ought to be two separate motions? That it is eligible for CPA funding and then another motion that we're allocating 6,500 from our administrative fund for assessment of the cemetery?
good point, Bill. I think. it
I
should
don't
be
know. I'm asking.
I
that.
withdraw the motion. Harry, will you please withdraw?
I'll withdraw the second.
I
Okay.
move that the eligibility form as submitted is eligible for historic preservation of cemeteries.
I second that.
Okay, good, thank you. Discussion? Okay, here, and Steve, thanks for pointing that out, that we didn't have the gelling together. Okay, no discussion. Josh, roll call.
Gina,
Yes,
Carlton,
Yes?
Harry,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
I move
Great.
that we provide $6,500 from the CPC's administrative funds to enable an assessment of the Jennings Hill Cemetery.
Second.
Okay, discussion?
And the
Okay, hearing-
contingencies in there that they'll provide a little bit more detail. I'm sorry.
Correct, okay. Bill, is that okay with your
Yeah,
second?
yeah,
That
yep,
it's
yep.
contingent upon more detail. Okay. No discussion. Josh, roll call, please.
Gina,
Yes.
Carlton,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Okay, if you can, Rich and Kathy, send on that proposal, anything you have, maybe once we get the added info, the contract, as I said, is gonna have to be with the town. But this person would have to prepare his contract, send it to us to have it signed.
Sure.
Okay, if that made sense. I think I'm confusing myself
It
tonight,
did.
but that's good. That's good. Okay, anything else on the cemetery? Okay, great, thank you. Moving on, and we're almost done. This is gonna be like almost a record meeting.
2 hours?
Yeah, 2 hours. We're doing good.
Let's move on.
The next thing, the senior center, eligibility form for adult recreation areas, trails and community gardens. Same thing as the Jennings Hill eligibility form, because our form didn't provide space for, it inadvertently, in switching it from a PDF to a PDF writable, it lost the space there, which it has been corrected. So therefore, the eligibility form we received from the senior center had no project description. However, they did have, and we've asked for that, plus this is just phase one, what they submitted. We'd asked for it to all be together, but noting the phases. Same thing, only theirs had a whole proposal from Melissa Desjardins, who was a landscape design person. So it did have the quote there, her proposal, and I believe it was, I don't have it handy. I believe it was 12,500. Do you remember, Carlton?
Yes, $12,100.
12,100. I was close. So it's the same thing. It's for the study. They have the proposal from the design person. So it's the same thing. It's basically for the study, and this one's more of the design, but
It's specifically to
study.
develop
The
the
study.
conceptual maps and
Right.
diagrams, et cetera, for the improvements at the senior centers, for the walking trail, various different bocce ball, that kind of recreational activities. But without the conceptual plan, they can't even go to phase 2 and 3, which is funding and construction.
Mhm.
That's totally eligible underneath admin cost.
Right, and there are a couple things that they're putting in, or they have in there now that aren't eligible, but that doesn't affect the study. The study still needs to be done. So I guess just a motion for that, or discussion on that.
I move to provide $12,100 from the current admin fund to fund a conceptual diagram and maps and other planning information regarding recreational improvements at the senior center.
Contingent upon? Like the
I don't have any
contingent,
contingents. It's very
okay,
clear in that
scratch
what's
that
been
because
proposed.
it was clear in their proposal. Okay. Scratch my comment. Okay, just, did we have a second?
A second.
Okay, discussion?
So
This is important.
Carlton, did their proposal include all like reimbursables and everything else?
I would have to go back and look at it. She broke it down into like 6 or 7 scopes, areas. And it's basically, I think, contingency on her basis. I'm not sure. But I know that the quote to the senior center was $12,100. We can up it a little bit just to cover it if you want.
No, I'm just curious because most architects, landscape architects, you know, part of their exclusions are any reimbursables, printing, or any of that other stuff that becomes an added cost at the end.
I believe that's all covered. It's a report covered. Basically, it's a report, a map, you know, that kind of stuff. So I think it's full up.
Okay, I just don't want to see them come back for more money when it, you know.
I hear you.
Okay.
But again, this has to be spent this year.
Right. Okay.
Okay, I'm just, oops,
Good
that's
question.
not it. Trying to. Okay, I'm not able to pull up her thing right away, for it, but. Okay, I don't recall it having expendables on it, or added
Well,
as noted,
the eligibility form asks for, I don't have it in front of me.
12,100,
It asks for 12.1 thousand, I believe.
right? Okay,
And I thought we had one in the,
okay.
I
I'm just,
apologize if you didn't get a copy of it.
yep. I think we hadn't sent it out because it wasn't complete. We were looking for more information. And I did hear from Emily Williams, the director of the senior center, who apologized for not getting it in. She just ran into some personal things, and
The
that was why.
request specifically says 8.1 to 12.1 K. So if we go with the upper limit, it should cover it.
Okay. What was, Carlton, what was on Melissa's proposal? What was the amount?
12.1. And she had a whole bunch of tasks. And she
Okay.
broke each task down by cost. So that's why the range is in there. Depends on how many tasks we select. So my position is that we provide $12,100 as the upper limit.
So would you change that to a not to exceed? Would you change that to a not to exceed number?
I'll accept that friendly amendment.
So if it comes in less, we're good, but if it comes in more,
Then we'll have to deal with it down the road, yeah.
Right.
But
Okay, I just
trust
pulled
this
up
particular landscape architect pretty implicitly. She's used by the town quite often.
Yep.
She was also a member of CPC.
Right, she was our chair for a while.
It's true.
Okay, just bear with me for 1 second, maybe 2 or 3. Okay, she actually has for the floor test. Okay, yep. She has it broken down. Okay, so Carlton's motion was for the 12,100, correct?
Not to exceed
Not to exceed.
$12,100.
Okay, per the
Development of
her eligibility forms at Bridgewater Senior Center and pickleball courts I've asked that she take off the pickleball courts because there's nothing on the pickleball courts that
Right. And
should be
I'm,
part
I'm
of this.
sorry, I didn't read this. Bridgewater Senior Center, it's called a master plan. It's a recreational plan, basically. And they need to do this in order to actually provide enough details to where they can come back to us for their requests under open space and rec.
Mhm. Okay. We can send that out to the committee to look at. As I said, I hadn't asked Josh to send it out thinking we would have the full, the added information that was requested. So the choice is to vote on, as Carlton's motion says, or just hold off till we get the full plan. But that's, she is pretty clear. Emily is in what they're asking for right now in the phase one. Okay, further discussion? Bill, Harry, Steve?
No.
No, I'm good.
Okay, Steve, anything?
Nope.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to provide funding from admin for not to exceed 12,100 for the eligibility form and proposal submitted. If I said that right. Josh, roll call?
Tina,
Yes.
Carlton,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Thank
Great,
you.
thank you. And again, the contract's going to have to be, I can talk to Emily. I'll actually be at the senior center tomorrow morning. If the town's paying, the contract has to be with the town, not with the senior center, which I guess is the town, but it has to go through the town manager's office. Okay, I will let her know. One more thing under other old business is the trails at the prison. That Carlton, you had info on that?
Oh, right. I had a conversation with Kitty Doherty with respect to the planned trail out by that's going to be built off of Summer Street. Basically, that program is about 2 to 3 years away from full funding. The first need is the town and the prison system, whoever owns the property, to finalize transfer of the land to the town so that we can actually do the design work and engineering work on that. So what she told me was that when I asked her specifically, are you going to need CPA money? She specifically said maybe in 2023, maybe 24. So right now, it's basically up to the town and the state to make their agreement and do all their due diligence and all of their magic things in terms of the legalities of the land. And then the development costs will come into play.
Okay.
So there's no further action on our part right now.
Okay, thank you. Any
Welcome.
thoughts or comments on that? Okay, and Harry, you're on that committee, so you can kind of keep us apprised of that too. If you would. Okay, new business. I think for the first time in God knows how long, we have no new business, plenty of old business, but nothing new unless somebody has something brought up by the committee tonight. Okay, hearing none. Committee liaison reports. Bill, we'll start with you.
We really haven't had a meeting in the last month. We've not had any applications come before us. We continue to have enforcement issues, which continue to be ignored. But I could probably make the same committee report every month.
Good, thank you.
Yep.
Steve, any committee reports from the planning board?
No, Nope, because I didn't know if I had a reply, how to give one, so.
Okay, yeah, we usually just ask for just an update if you're, whatever you're doing that would possibly affect CPC. Okay, let's see, Carlton,
I have nothing more to say right now, except May 4th. We
Okay.
probably should post we should probably post in case we have quorum that we're meeting to,
that's true. Josh, can you post that for us for the McKelvey visit, just in case we do get the more than five or more?
Yeah, I had a reminder to do that in the morning. Is there anything extra you want on it? I was just going to
just
do,
say, just a meeting to,
yeah, just a
conduct,
workshop.
A tour
CPA
of,
workshop or CPA tour.
Okay, yep, I'll
Right.
get that posted in the morning.
okay, great,
No
thank
public.
you.
I don't know if we can say no public, but we.
I can throw that on there.
Right. Okay, Harry,
Yeah, the town was awarded a grant for the High Street Dam project of $1.5 million
Wow.
from the state conservation and environmental. They awarded it. I put in a letter of support that was written up by town manager, and we put in for a larger amount and hope that we get something, and we got a whole lot more than we expected.
wow, that's great, congratulations, that's wonderful. Good to hear. And that was the State Conservation and Environmental Agency.
Right, and I found out about it the day that they did it because we had the Taunton River meeting, and she's one of the members of the Taunton River Stewardship Council, so she surprised me and told me that night that we were awarded the money in the morning.
Wow, that's great. Wow, wonderful. Anything else for Concom?
No, just our regular site visits and checking out wetlands, the normal.
Okay, great. I guess last but not least, for Parks and Rec, I already said about the pickleball courts. We don't have anything right now. What's going on? We have a new superintendent, Jim Small, who's the superintendent of grounds at Old Scotland Links. He replaced Charlie Simons as superintendent of the Parks and Rec. He's getting his feet wet with it, but right now we have, other than get everything ready for the summer and spring and summer. There's nothing new for that other than day-to-day stuff. Okay. No upcoming events yet. Public comments. No public comments. The next meeting is scheduled for May 25th at 6:30. I believe we can go back to in-person meetings.
Ooh,
Yeah, what's the feeling? Do you want to meet in person or continue Zoom or?
I have a brand new computer and I still miss it seems to me every other word from not all members, but from some people. So I look forward to returning to in-person meetings.
Okay, Steve or Carlton or Harry, comments, thoughts?
It's up to you guys. We can do hybrid also.
Okay. Josh, we can do the hybrid still?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Harry?
I like the hybrid.
Okay, sounds good.
I have to double check on the hybrid. Again, it's just because of the involvement that's needed. I just have to check to see if there's somebody that could support me.
Okay.
Josh, we just did a hybrid at the smaller conference room in the Academy building, and it worked quite well. But you have to do some coordination. You're right.
Yeah, I'll check on that for you guys.
Okay, we'll check on that. and get back to the committee on if it's in person or hybrid. I think that's it. Anything?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, count motion to adjourn. Second,
Second,
I'm like talking to myself. Okay. Discussion? Josh, roll call?
Gina,
Yes.
Carlton,
Yes.
Harry,
yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved. The meeting's adjourned.
Thank you all.
Great. Thank you, everybody.
Good
Have a
night.
good
Thanks, everybody.
night.
Night.